happening right now. What I'd like to do is first explain how and why we're here tonight, beyond the obvious of honoring our special guest. But we actually had an event like this 25 years ago to honor Stu and Bobby Hornsleth for their years of service to St. Dot's football. We actually surprised them both. It was a surprise at the Clothier Hall in Wynwood. Father Murphy referred to it. It was really a fun night for everybody. Well, Stu didn't take the hint, and here we are 25 years later doing this all over again. This event was actually going to be next year, but with his surprise retirement, we had to move it up till tonight. Jim, of course, wanted no parts of this night, but I told him a lot of folks wanted to honor him, and it really would work out a lot better if he came. And he obliged. Thank you, Stu. He agreed if we made this a St. Dot football reunion and raised money in the memory of the late great Bobby Hornsleth, who passed away in December of 2013, he would be happy to attend. So we're raising a few bucks for that. Again, please, if you didn't get a t-shirt, leave your info over there. We will mail you one. So we appreciate that. And the 50 years that we're talking about starts with Jim coaching the JV football team at St. Dot's in 1962, then became the head varsity coach in 1963 through 2014. However, he had a 3-year hiatus in the 70s, and this past year he was a director of scouting operations for the team, which made it an even 50. Speaking of Bobby Hornsleth, I need to mention a few things. I was blessed to grow up with Bobby and knew him for 50 years. Although I only saw him a couple times a year, every time I saw him, no matter what kind of mood I was in, he brightened my day with that big smile, a big hearty hello, and a hug. And we all know the Lord didn't give Bobby the same gifts he gave us. But I've never seen a community, and when I say community, I mean St. Dot's, Rhyme Swim Club, my Warrior Road gang, ever treat one of God's chosen ones like you all did for Bobby. It was a great sight when all the former players and coaches stood up at his packed funeral mass. Special thanks to, obviously, Stu, Mo McNeil, Gator Devine, Leo Kindon, Tony Riviella, Sharon O'Brien, and countless others who were so good to Bobby in his later years. And lastly, many of us old guys always say how we grew up in the best neighborhood on earth, and I really couldn't agree more. I thought about what made it so great, and I come up with this, that we all pulled for each other, wherever it was or whenever it was. The older guys teased us younger guys, but always took care of us as well. And most especially, our parents not only took great care of us, but they treated our friends as well as they treated us. And I'm talking about people like John Creighton, Jerry Sheehan, Frank Fody, and Pete Hughes, who are all here tonight, who I would ask you to stand up, but we don't have that kind of time. So in addition to keeping our church football history going, please follow the tremendous leadership of Father Murphy and keep the St. Dot's community as the best neighborhood on earth. Okay, now I'd like to get started by introducing the St. Dot's football version of Gene Bartow, who had the task of replacing John Wooden at UCLA. I'd like to introduce the new head coach at St. Dot's, Brian Gallagher, and his coaching staff, who, by the way, are off to a terrific start. Please welcome Brian Gallagher, class of '88, Tom Coco, class of '87, Frank Grady, class of '84, Chris McGrory, John Ahern, and John Lilly.
Guys, if the rest of the staff could come up, Tom Coco, Fran Grady, Chris McGrory, Johnny Ahern. Thank you, Paul. And Paul, thanks for organizing this. You and the committee have done a phenomenal job putting this together for Mr. Stewart. It's just a wonderful thing. So I'd like to get a round of applause for the folks who organized this event. The staff here behind me, Tom Coco, John Lilly, Chris McGrory, Fran Grady, and Johnny Ahern. What we did this year, we had a successful season, and being that it was the first year without Coach Stu, I couldn't have asked for a better group. And when you're an assistant football coach, it's a very thankless job. But I would like to thank them personally and give them a round of applause. So this season was the first year without Stu. So without fail, every game we go to this year, either an opposing coach, an official, or a parent would, without fail, come up to me and say, "Well, where's Stu?" I would say, "Well, Stu stepped down after last year," and they would say, every one of them would say the same thing. It's kind of funny. The Father Murphy mentioned it. He said, "You have some really big shoes to fill." And I always said the same thing as well. I said, "Well, you don't fill those shoes. You just can't." And then they would kind of look at me kind of funny, and they would say, "Well, good luck, Coach." And I think they were kind of thinking like, "Well, this guy's screwed." But they're right. I'll never be the Coach Stu was. He's the best CYO football coach without question. Not only and it goes beyond the X's and O's, which Stu was certainly phenomenal with. The X's and O's he was great with, but it was the faith, the passion, and the enthusiasm that Coach Stewart brought every day, every week, every month, and every year. For someone to do that for 50 years, it's hard for me to get my head around it. So phenomenal job. But it takes more than a great football coach to fill a room like this tonight. Stu is a community leader, a friend, and a mentor to so many folks in this room, including myself. He's an incredible ability to make each player better as the year went on. The hallmarks of Stu's team have always been constant improvement. I can imagine every coach, when the schedule will come out in late August, we look at their schedule and hope to God they got St. Dot's early in the season and not late, because they knew Stu's teams were going to get better and better and better. But it wouldn't matter if they got him early, because Stu would outcoach him anyway. And we all know that Stu's a class act and a true gentleman. He always has coached with class. I just want everyone to know he also ended his coaching career with class. The team we had this year, we did have some success. But Coach Stu did know we had a talented group. We had a team with ability. And I could say probably a lot of coaches or a lot of people would maybe say, "You know what, I want that last chance at glory," or "I want to go out on some type of high note." But that's not Coach Stewart. He puts the program in front of himself. And it was more important to Coach Stu that the program and the team be in tip-top shape to have the next coach have the ability to have a successful season. And that means so much. And as was mentioned, Coach Stewart spent his Saturday mornings this year scouting for us to give us every ability to have a successful team and season. So that just means a lot to all of us. The committee has asked us to present a football to Stu, and the football reads 50-0. I think it's so appropriate that it says 50-0 because it's the 50 years, and each year has been a success. I can tell you that Mr. Stu has never been one for statistics or counting wins and losses. But I can tell you this, he's won a hell of a lot more than he's lost. And again, Stu never measured a season based on wins and losses. He measured it on player improvement, teaching life lessons, preaching faith, family, and football. He measured it on making sure St. Dot's football players become productive, good young men who work hard. We were taught nothing in life will come easy. It's hard work that breeds success. And I would think that's why St. Dot's football runs belly probably 15 to 20 times a game. And looking around this room, 50-0 sounds about right to me. Thanks for everything, Coach Stu.
Thank you, Brian. Congratulations on a great season, guys. Okay, before we get to our next speaker, we had an opportunity of some people who couldn't be here tonight to send a goodwill message to Stu. So if you can look at your monitors, we have a special guest who'd like to send a goodwill message to Stu.
Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for not being with you tonight for this special and memorable occasion. And Jim, I want to congratulate you on having the most successful coaching career in the history of Philadelphia CYO football. You see, I don't always measure success in wins and losses, but I do know that you won an awful lot of football games in your 50 years of coaching. Let me tell you a little something about Jim Stewart. He totally understood what coaching means. He taught the kids how to win, but more importantly, how to lose also. He taught the kids how to make a tackle, but more importantly, how to help the runner up after the play was over. And he taught the kids how to act when they reached the end zone, like they had been there before. And I'm proud to say that Jim and I have several things in common. First, we both love to coach football. Second, both our birthday candles cost more than the cake. And thirdly, we both have a deep faith in our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. For 50 years, Jim led his team to Mass before every game and the team prayer before each kickoff. That reminds me of when I was coaching Notre Dame. We were playing University of Miami in the game they promoted the Catholics versus the convicts. Now, I didn't think that was too fair since not all our kids were Catholics, but it was luncheon the day before the game. Team chaplain from the University of Miami come up and said, "Coach, I am a Roman Catholic priest. We come up here to beat you, and God doesn't really care who wins this game." Then when it was my turn to talk, I said, "Father, I agree with you. God doesn't care who wins this game. But I promise you his mother does, and she wants us to win." So, I just ask everybody to enjoy your time together tonight. And Jim, I wish you many happy years in retirement. You are truly a great inspiration, all those kids you coached. And they all have a little part of the Jim Stewart in them somewhere, and that's a very good thing. God bless you, Jim, and all the folks here tonight.
Our next speaker is Father Rob Hagan, who is class of 1979 from St. Dots, 1983 from Cardinal Hara, 1987 from Villanova University, and graduated law school in 1990. In 1997, he had, I guess we'd call it a slight career change, and entered the Augustinian Seminary. He was ordained in 2003 and has been at Villanova ever since, now serving as an associate athletic director and the chaplain of the football and basketball team. He was able to survive all this despite being one of my players when I had the fortune of coaching him at St. Dots. Please welcome Father Rob Hagan.
Thanks, crowd. What a great night. It is really an honor to be here to celebrate a most significant occasion in this day and age where commitment is not easily found, to celebrate 50 years of service, 50 years of teaching, 50 years of example, and the lives that have been touched. It's a great joy for all of us, I know, we share as Delaware Countyans. You know, there's, to paraphrase that recent article about Delaware County, you're from Delaware County when you're from a town that has more bars than bookstores, and you understood at an early age how to leave the trophy tavern and catch the trolley to the L to the parade, and you're from Delaware County when you spent most of your summers at Aronimick Pool, and I hear a lot of confessions, but I have to ask for absolution right now for Stu. For all those years I was a fence member, Stu, and you kind of looked the other way and gave me absolution, and that really helped forge some tremendous friendships that I have today with my brothers that all played for you. And so you're not from Delaware County or really anywhere around these parts and not know of the excellence of the CYO football program, St. Dorothy's, and what it stands for, the coach and the players and the way they play and how they represent themselves. And that's all directly attributable to Jim Stewart, to his faith, to the coaching tree, the many people that have come along your side that you have mentored. And, I work a lot with coaches. I work a lot with the NCAA and the Big East Conference. And you can't find a better man, a better example of what athletics should stand for in Jim Stewart and Fran Dunphy, who's also with us tonight. And that's not easily found in this competition and high stakes and big money and invasive parents, and to really stay true to your core values and to try to pass them on in such a way that it makes a difference, even if it's not the most popular thing all the time. And so I thought maybe I would just briefly just highlight, we could all make our list of the things that we've learned from Stu over these 50 years. But I would just maybe highlight 3 things that came to my mind as I was reflecting. And the first is, and Stu did this with us, and certainly coaches would be well equipped to do that on their own teams, and that is to build a brotherhood. To really remind your athletes, your teammates, that it is so much more than a game. It is so much bigger than just yourself. And all the great coaches, the real special ones, they talk so much more about life than they ever do about the game, about the X and O's. And Stu spent so much of his time building that brotherhood, and it's an exemplified by how full this room is tonight. Talking about people that went before us, people who are with us in spirit. Up until I was in 7th grade, I thought oyster was something you ate with cocktail sauce. And you hear these names, Zombie, and you didn't just hear, their nicknames, but you heard, who they were and where they are now and how they were doing in college and what kind of fathers they were and maybe how they went on to be coaches themselves and the importance of giving back. And so Stu, he spent a lifetime building that brotherhood, and we all feel that. We're all beneficiaries of that. And I know my class, class of '79. I think Jimmy Joe Butler will take on anybody who wants to debate who Stu's best team was. But '79, we won the Parade of Champions. We were undefeated, and we never talked about winning games. And as I reflect on that, it wasn't because we had the best facilities or the nicest field or the prettiest jerseys, but because we loved each other. And there wasn't a single thing that any one of us wouldn't do for the other. And when you can forge that kind of strength, that kind of unity, you can accomplish great things more than the individual members, more than our individual strength. And last year we lost one of our brothers. Brian Arvello passed away. And a month later, Turkey Bowl, Stu's got number 66 painted in the end zone. And a reminder again to all of us that spirit never dies. Stu didn't forget. We don't forget. We pick each other up. We understand that in life, nobody goes undefeated. And whether it's marriage or job, personal situation, there are times when we all get knocked down. And to have that brotherhood, to have those friendships, to have those people in your life who can walk with you and pick you up and don't care how many points you scored or how many minutes you played, because they know that you're bonded by something stronger. It was a great coach, Eddie Robinson, who said that coaching is really a profession of love. And you can't coach people unless you love them first. And Jim Stewart loved us all. And we felt that. And we shared that. And now, Brian, you've got a tall order. You're following a legend, but you're also taught by a legend. And so you're well equipped to take those same messages, those same values, and to pass them on. For 50 years, St. Dorothy's has always started their football games the same way, with Mass. Not because we're the most religious, not because we're praying to win, but because we're humble. And we ask God for strength. And we ask God for forgiveness. And we ask God for direction so that we can go do our best with what we've been given. And I got to tell you, as someone who now is a chaplain for many teams, who says a lot of team masses, that was a real formative time in our life. And for you to make sure that we got to Mass and to hear the Word and to understand that faith and religion is cool. It's not uncool, it's cool. And to understand that that's not something you do just on Sunday or in religion class, but you take your faith into every single thing that you do, into the classroom, onto the field, in business, when you're struggling, when you're succeeding, to ask God for help and to take what we have and share it with others. And that was a very, very formative time for us to learn that. And you helped teach us that. And so, on behalf of all the many lives, the people that you've touched in this Thanksgiving weekend, it wouldn't be Thanksgiving if we didn't gather with St. Dots and Stu to give thanks to God for a good man, for a humble servant who's pretty much embarrassed by all this tonight. 50 years ago, a gallon of gas was probably 25 cents. A gallon of milk was probably 85 cents. Lyndon Johnson was president. A lot has changed in 50 years. A lot of our hairlines have changed in 50 years. A lot of our waistlines have changed in 50 years. But there are some things that do not change, that last and endure. And those core values that we learned on a little football field in Drexel Hill. And we thank God for the opportunity. We thank God for people who give, to be a giver more than a taker in this world. And so, Stu, I know you got a lot of footballs, so I won't give you another football. But we'll give you a blessing. And so I'd invite all of us, everybody in the room, if you would just extend your hands in Stu's direction as we pray this prayer together. Good and gracious God, we thank you for the gift of life. We thank you for the good people you place in our lives each and every day, people who direct us and shape us and help us. Bless Jim Stewart. We thank him for his years of service. Bless his family, his future, and all his intentions. And let us take what we have learned and pass it on to others and be instruments of peace, instruments of hope to all in this world. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. God bless.
Before I introduce our next speaker, we have two other people who would like to send a video message to Jim.
Earl Wacer and Mike Quick unfortunately cannot be here, but we are honoring Jim Stewart.
Yeah, congratulations, Jim, on a big night. I'm sorry Merle and I could not be there, but I will say that Saturday morning football will just not be the same without you on the St. Dot sidelines. We're going to miss seeing that green windbreaker and those high black Converse stalking the sideline at Steel Field this year.
Speaking of Saturday mornings, Mike, those mornings are sponsored by Yummy Bakery, the sweetest spot in Bristol.
All right, Merle, and let me say, Stu, we're going to miss those special trick plays like the special slider, which are legendary in St. Dot's history.
Speaking of legendary, Mike, the Spider Special Play was sponsored by Lou the Shoe.
Now, Stu, Thanksgiving Day and the 50 years of battles against St. Bernie's will never be the same on Thanksgiving without you involved.
Speaking of Thanksgiving Day, stop by Cavanaugh's Saloon for a post-game beer at this fine establishment in Pilgrim's Garden. Up the street from
Yeah, well, so Stu, Merle and I and the Philadelphia Eagles organization want to wish you a great evening.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, Mike. And by the way, this great evening has been brought to you by Lens Den. Cheesesteak, fries, and shake. Whether you're 18 or 80, there's always a case of cold beer at Kelly Beer. Still, I've been calling Eagles games as long as you've been coaching St. Thomas. And I think both of us will say that our time doing this is good.
Thank you, Merrill and Mike. Our next speaker is another St. Dot's original, Jerry Birdman Collins. Bird's the class of 1963 from St. Dot's and 67 from Cardinal O'Hara. He began coaching football at St. Dot's while a student at Villanova from 1967 to 1971, and basketball from 1969 to 1972. Always trying to keep one step ahead of the sheriff, he then went on to a successful high school coaching career at Cardinal O'Hara, Archbishop Carroll, Notre Dame in New Jersey, Bishop Kenrick, LaSalle High School, and St. Pius X. Please welcome Birdman Collins.
Crowd, you caught me off guard. I thought it was going to be me up there on the screen having Joe Conklin do it to me. First and foremost, I really do want to apologize to everybody for my behavior tonight. There's a fine line between good taste and bad taste, and I might even cross over on that bad taste side. I think I'm okay with the nicknames, but a few of the stories I have may not be so good. But we'll see. We'll have fun. If you did a pie chart of Stu's coaching career, I was a very small sliver of it. I started in 1967, and it was my first year coaching football. It was Shark, Stu, and Finch. How about those for nicknames? We got better ones coming. And I coached until the 71 season, and then we made a big mistake. We walked away, Stu, and we coached together at Malvern on the weight team. So great years, and I really, they're just fantastic. But knowing Stu like I do, I decided when Crowd asked me to speak, and I really appreciate the honor of getting a chance to speak here tonight. I know that Stu really is embarrassed by the whole thing. I think when you praise Stu, he would rather you be talking about somebody else. So I'm not going to talk about Stu tonight. My speech is really going to be kind of a community celebration about how great it is to grow up in Drexel Hill. I'm going to honor some of the old guys that I have at the table here and kind of highlight some people. So that's where the bad taste might come in, some of those stories. But before I get there, I need to go off script a little bit and address the elephant in the room. And I'm not talking about the nun that taught you 6th grade. I somehow wound up on the mailing list of the St. Dorothy's newsletter, which is just absolutely fantastic. It comes in the mail and I get excited about it because even though I don't live in the parish anymore, I still bleed green, and I really, reading about how strong the parish is and how strong the school is just absolutely terrific, and I really look forward to it. And as I'm paging through this came out in the summer, I come to a double page where it says, "Thanks and farewell to a St. Dot's legend," where we had a number of people write in stories. Kraut, you were one of them. Just absolutely fantastic. And I get to one of the stories here, written by Ed Deal the father. Is Ed Deal the father here tonight? I'm sure he is. Could may had something better to do tonight. But Ed Deal the father writes in, okay? Before Belichick and Spygate, there was Stu and Birdman. I'm telling you, I hadn't coached a team down since St. Dot's since 1979, a high school CYO team. They still remember me. This is phenomenal. So I continue reading. I don't deserve to be on the same page with Stu with all this. But it goes on. I should have stopped right there instead of keep reading. Stu told the story of Birdman. Birdman was one of Stu's coaches that spied on St. Bernadette's practice before a turkey ball. The reason he was called Birdman was that he climbed up a tree to do his spying. Unfortunately, Birdman couldn't fly and fell from his perch. The implication here, no, the allegation, is that I fell out of a tree. Where did they get this stuff? Fell out of a tree while scouting another CYO team at practice. Not a game, we're talking practice. I'm here to tell you tonight that that story is absolutely true. The year is 1967. I'm an 18-year-old freshman at Villanova, and Shark and Stu say to me, we need you to go over to Sacred Heart. It wasn't St. Bernadette's, the Sacred Heart's practice, and scout their practice. So I grab Art Casciato, and we head over to Sacred Heart's field, right behind the police station there in Manoa. And we pull up and we're in the parking lot, and Arthur and I, we can't see anything. We can't get any advantage. They're out there practicing, but we can't tell anything. So we move to the playground, okay? And today we would be arrested. There's two older guys, and we're hanging out with the 4- and 5-year-olders as they're playing in the playground, or trying to see practice. And we can't see anything. So I said, Arthur, there's a tree over there. We can see everything from that tree. Arthur said, Birdman, I don't think it's a very good idea. So I run over the tree with my whatever I can do for St. Dot's attitude and scamper up the tree, and I can see everything. Now the problem is, I'm 18 years old, I don't know what I'm looking for. What am I gonna do? The kid throws a good ball, or the guys are fast. And something happened. I'm not sure what happened. It was 48 years ago. Either a branch broke or I misstepped or something. All I can remember is the ground came up and hit me. And I'm laying on the ground checking for my car keys, and the whole Sacred Heart team runs over. And the head coach is a guy by the name of Mike Stumpy Coyne. Are you okay? Are you okay? Anything hurt? You're okay there? Wait a second. You're one of Shark and Stu's boys, aren't you? So, I picked myself up. You talk about a walk of shame. Walking back to the car, Arthur saying, I told you, it was a bad idea. So we go back to practice, and I thought I'd get a lot of sympathy. Shark and Stu and Finch, all they could do was fall down and laugh. They thought that was hilarious. But anyway, what I want to talk about really is and just kind of talk about how lucky we are to grow up in St. Dorothy's. I think probably about 90 to 95% of us here grew up in St. Dorothy's and either played for Stu or Shark or maybe Mr. Smith. And we just dumb luck that we wound up in this parish. Probably for the most part, it was our father, our parents buying a house in the parish. We didn't know anything. I grew up, or I moved into the parish at age of 3, started first grade. I didn't know anything about St. Dorothy's and how great it would be, but it turned out to be that way. It's funny, I was at a party one time, I think it was Buddy Tosti's crowd, and a girl came up to me. Didn't happen very often. But a girl came up to me and said, why do you St. Dot's guys feel that you're the best? Act like you're the best. And I said, we really don't. We don't think we're better than anybody else. But where we came from was. And then I thought about it later when I was putting this together, and I said, maybe we did act a little smug or arrogant or something, like thinking we were the best. Story. December 1966, Monk Simon is driving around the streets of Drexel Hill, of Delaware County. I should say Paul Monk Simon. There were 3 of them. He's driving around. He knows what he's looking for. He knows exactly what he's looking for. He knows he's seen it. He just can't place where it is. Then out on 320, out near Bryn Mawr Avenue, he spots it. There it is. It's a street sign. Big, diamond-shaped yellow sign. In the middle has 4 letters. H-I-L-L, Hill. He gets out, chops the sign down, throws it in his back seat. He's in business. Every home game at O'Hara that year, when a St. Dot's guy did something, Jackie Hendricks would be announced as a starter. Hill sign goes up. Michael Daly hits a jump shot. Hill sign goes up. Ray Martin grabs a rebound, scores, gets fouled. Hill sign up. Everything. Any St. Dot's guy, Hill. Okay? Then the Holy Cross people got a little upset. They got a park sign, so anytime Joe Wazinski would score, the park sign would go up. The game became secondary. It was, did the Hill guys play better than the park guys? So maybe we were a little arrogant. But what made our parish the best, and I really believe this, is a number of things. First of all, the people. I grew up, again, I'm a 1963 graduate of St. Dorothy's. Some of my best friends are 4, 5, 6, 7 years older than me. And on the flip side, 4, 5, 6, 7 years younger than me. I've got kids, their friends are in their class only. I said, well, how about the guys below you or above you? Oh, I know them, but they're not friends of mine. That would never work in our situation. Give you an example. We lived in a house on Darby Creek Road in Broomall when we were in our 20s. Listen to the age gaps here. Here are the guys that lived in that house. Pop, class of 58. Dumpf, class of 62. Bird and Nails, class of 63. Bulb, class of 64. And the visitor every night was Paul Ryan Rinney, class of 58. First of all, how do you like those nicknames? Good nicknames, right? But that was normal. That was normal. There's an age gap there of 6 years. We were all the same level. Everybody treated each other the same. And when I grew up, that was the case with the guys older than me. They were incredibly nice, incredibly supportive, and never trash talk, no bullying, anything like that. The only guy that ever trash talked was a guy, and I'll talk a lot about him as I go along, a guy by the name of Bringy. Bringy was a moron. He would trash talk up. He'd pick on Denny Dunphy, Mike Shaney, the icons, and they had to put him in his place. He never trash talked down. So the older guys were so great for us, and I hope when it became our turn that we were, nice and supportive to the guys below us. So the people certainly made St. Dorothy's. But how about the venues? Steel Field. Easily, and I've been around the block, easily the best place to watch a CYO football game. There's none better. I often think, and they've been playing football there for 65 years, was it man-made? Did the bank all of a sudden exist? I mean, what happened on that, you know? But the best place, we take it for granted. Any of us who ever played at Steel Field, and there's been hundreds, if not thousands, of kids who played at Steel Field, we took the place for granted. Aronimink Swim Club, or the pool. No other parish had a Aronimink Swim Club. No other parish had a facility like that. I'm old enough to remember the pool before the picnic area, the basketball courts, the tennis courts, the adult pool, and it was still the best place around. And we were gracious enough to allow the St. Andrews and St. Bernadette's kids in. But mean enough to keep the Springfield kids out. Another great venue, and I don't think it has its importance the way it did then, is Aronimink Elementary School. Okay, we played at the courts in basketball. I remember 5th grade practicing at the field behind St. Dot's School. There used to be a field there. They built the new church in '60. We got moved down to Aronimink School to practice. So that became our practice field. I believe probably that we practice mostly at Steel Field now. But Aronimink Elementary School was a huge venue for us in those days. The basketball courts had the best players from the whole city area that played there. St. Dot's Gym. Now you're going to laugh at that one. St. Dot's Gym. For me, that was the Palestra of Drexel Hill. We never hit, am I right that it was the Palestra of Drexel Hill? We never hit the ceiling. First of all, the ceiling was never a problem. It was the beams. The beams were the problem. But not for us, not for us. We knew how to shoot in there. If it's the basket down by the stage, that beam is right over the basket, and you can't shoot a corner shot. Can't shoot it. But the wing shots, top of the key, arc it as high as you want. The other basket up by the steps, that beam is out a little bit further towards the foul line, your corner shot, you can arc it as high as you want. The opposing teams didn't know that. But easily the one, and I think this contributed to why all our friends were different ages, was Lensden and Kelly Beard Distributor. I mean, even Merrill Reese knows about it. I'll talk about the beer distributor. First of all, Finch, who's here tonight, Buddy Tosti, myself, and a lot of other ones, Eddie Manning, all worked there. There were two brothers that owned and operated Kelly Beer Distributor and Lensden. Jack Kelly was up front with Lensden. Len Kelly was in the back at the beer distributor. And Len Kelly was an interesting guy. He was a World War II veteran and had a philosophy about underage drinking. And he would preach to me. I mean, he was very serious. He'd say, "You're telling me we're sending 18 and 19-year-olders over to fight in Vietnam and they can't come home and have a beer?" And I was only like 21 myself. I said, "I'm on that page. I'm fine." So we might have sold a case or two to an underage. What our rule was, and he had a rule, if you could stammer out and stutter out the word yes, you could get a case of beer. Because he would go out there, and he wasn't a confrontational guy. He couldn't look you in the eye. He'd be, "Are you 21?" And he'd look down, and if you just go, "Yes," you got served. Not a problem. If you rode in, if there was 5 or 6 guys in a car, you know, you got it. I can't serve you anything. But if it was somebody who was alone in the car and looked responsible, we never even asked them. Okay. One time, a kid came in on a bicycle, and we had to draw the line on that. Couldn't do that. Then up front, you had Lensden. Lensden was the greatest place on earth. If you were in 7th and 8th grade, you had a game at 10 o'clock every Saturday morning. Football in the fall, basketball in the winter. The program was you play your game and you're at lunch for Lensden. And next to you, and you're all with all your buddies, in the next booth, it could be a bunch of college guys, and chances are one of them's your coach. And that's the way it was. You went and helped yourself the free Pepsi. Well, Pepsis. They were free if you wanted them. Had the best burgers and fries. The service wasn't that great. You know, he had a string of waitresses, Helen, sometimes his sister Mimi, that never got anything right. I sat in there with Nails one time, and we ordered burgers and fries, and sat for 40 minutes waiting for this. And finally, Helen came out with a BLT. BLT. Nails said, "I'll take it. I'll take it." But Lensden was the place. Back then, we didn't have any social media. There was no cell phones, no Twitter, anything like that. So that was the social media. If you needed a ticket or a ride to the Plusher, Saturday afternoon in the Lensden, you could find somebody to take you there. If you were wondering about the Catholic League game the night before, you found out about it there. If Bagman made an appearance, you found out about it at Bagman, at Lensden. Bagman was a person who wore a bag over his head and nothing else. Oh, he might have had a pair of sneakers on. And he would hide in the shadows and jump out and scare and shock young couples when they came home from dates. So you can imagine that Bagman appearance was huge news. That was big. But you didn't call somebody at home, you know, you waited till you got the Lensden and found out about it. So that to me, that was made us different, is the age gaps as far as the friends are concerned. But then you also have the nicknames. Bill Parcells had said somewhere, he said, "You are what your record is. Well, you were what your nickname is." If you had a nickname, that changed your whole identity. I had a nickname, I got it in like 4th grade. From then on, I was Bird. My real name's Jerry. If I was in a crowd and somebody yelled, "Jerry!" I wouldn't even turn around. My nickname, everybody in my family called me my nickname, including my mother and father. And I was named after my father. That's a good nickname. But some of the other nicknames, they're going to have the same situation where they had everybody in their family call them that, and they became that identity. They weren't their real name anymore. Some examples. You knew I had examples, right? He wasn't Brian, he's Kutch. He wasn't Frank, he's Buddy. He wasn't Michael, he's Oyster. He wasn't Paul, he's Kraut. It's not Richard, he's Gumper. It's not Kenny, he's Nails. It's not Ray, he's Bulb. It's not Tommy, he's Gator. He's not Denny, he's Pickle. He's not Greg, he's LG or Long Gone. How about this one? He's not John, he's Goiter. He's not Mike, he's Spider. He's not Andy, he's Knothead. He's not Mike, he's Tuba. He's not Danny, he's Bear. These are guys that you don't think of them as their real names. It's not Bobby, he's Pig. He's not David, he's Rhino. He's not Tommy, he's Finch. He's not Jack, he's Shark. And he's not Drew, he's Dog. And if you were a McAndrew, you were a flag. If you were a Guinan, you were a rabbit. And if you were a Simon, you were a monk. Now here's some nicknames. I'm going to go through all the years before Stu coached and highlight some individuals there. I'm going to tell you who the greatest class ever out of St. Dorothy's was. Now, how do you come up with that? I mean, how do you measure what the greatest class out of St. Dorothy's was? You could say, okay, this class had more CEOs and more doctors and more lawyers. That makes that the greatest class. You could say, okay, let's take all the undefeated football teams, and there were a lot of them, and say, okay, their basketball teams won all these tournaments, so that makes that the greatest class. In the world according to Bird, the greatest class ever out of St. Dot's is judged by how many nicknames they had and how many characters they produced with retellable stories. So I'll get to that in a second, but I have some nicknames here that I just couldn't place in any of those classes. I didn't know where they belonged. Our father, my brother John is here, our father had a nickname, Ram. Michael Daly's father had a nickname, Doc Egg. Our family car had a nickname, the Tank. Denny Dunphy had the Bandwagon, we had the Tank. Jack Kelly, the owner and proprietor of the greatest place on earth, Lens Den, had a nickname, Lipper. Mr. Poole was a little bald-headed guy that drove the bus at St. Dot's and was the maintenance man and, well, him or Carl got the call anytime that somebody threw up, okay? Somebody threw up, get Mr. Poole, get Carl. And, you know, and if they ever did it in your class, it was something like your curiosity got you, glance over and you just turn away. Poor Mr. Poole had to take care of that. Mr. Poole's nickname, Cess. Father Grogan. Father Grogan was the assistant pastor. Father DeRoss was the pastor. Father Grogan was the assistant pastor. Personality as large as life. I mean, he's huge. His nickname, Grab-a-Buck. Perky. I don't know who Perky was. I assume his last name was Perkins. I assume, what is it? Perky. I don't know what he did. I don't know if he was a St. Dot's guy. He kind of patrolled Pilgrim Gardens and walked around, and you'd see, oh, there's Perky. I only saw him at John McGarry's side yard when we were playing wiffle ball. But he walked down the street like this. His nickname, Headface. Vampire. Can you imagine? Vampire. I forget Vampire's name. Jack Waldman. That's a good nickname when you don't know the guy's real name. I'd sit in Lens Den and Vampire, or in true St. Dot's fashion, Vamp. Vamp would come in, he'd play pool, and when I had two thoughts about Vampire. I'm a 6th, 7th grader. I'm thinking, what happens when he calls a girl for a date? Hello, this is Jack. what do you say we get together and go for a movie on Saturday night? You're not the guy they call vampire, are you? I don't think so. I'm busy for the next 10 years. And the other one was, how about his father when he would go to a game? And the other father would say, elbow and say, who's the kid they're calling vampire down there? That would be my son. Baja, he got that nickname, that's how he laughed. Bear Tracks got out of the pool and walked across the deck. What he left behind was big bear tracks. Howdy Doody, we had a kid named Howdy Doody. My heroes growing up were Wilt Chamberlain, Richie Ashburn, and Howdy Doody. We had a kid named Howdy Doody. Roach, I don't forget his first name. Big guy, Cerrucci, that played high school CYO basketball. Roach. Frog was Robert Hankey. Frog couldn't do anything in the world. He couldn't dribble, he couldn't pass, never got picked for a game. He had one thing he could do. He would stand at half court at Aronimink Elementary School with a two-hand over-the-head set shot and never miss a half-court shot. It's the only thing he could do. Two-handed, never miss a half-court shot. You could wake him up on December 26th, have him trudge through 3 or 4 inches of snow, sweep off a spot at half court, he'd nail his half court shot, trudge home, get back in bed. He'd be a millionaire today. He'd go to half court shots, they offer $10,000, $50,000 shots. He'd go arena to arena, give him one ball, hit his half court shot, collect his 50 grand, go to the next arena. It's Frog. Jimmy Doyle, named Cannonball. How do you get the nickname Cannonball? We had a guy named Cannonball. Heavy, Bob Kazanjian, not a St. Dot's guy, was the commissioner of the courts at Drexel Hill. Heavy, not a thin guy. Shaky McGuire, I don't know if Tom Stewart's here. Tom Stewart was manager at the pool before Jim. He had a lifeguard named Shaky McGuire. And then I'm stepping out of, I wanted to keep it in the years before Stu coached, but I had to go with what I consider the best nickname we ever had, and that's Stop Sign Head. Stop Sign Head was Bruce Grentz, kind of an annoying guy, but made himself a player. He wound up starting with Tommy Inglesby in O'Hara's backcourt, and he really did make himself a player. But he had a weird-shaped head. The front of it had a couple of things coming out, kind of like Elephant Man. But the back of his head was absolutely brilliant. It was exquisite. It was a perfect octagon. Perfect octagon. You could rip a stop sign off of any pole, fit it right on Stop Sign's head, and there wouldn't be any overage, nothing under there. Perfect fit. In true St. Dot's fashion, that got shortened to Stoppy. And Bruce caught wind of it and was convinced it was because of his great defense that everybody was calling him Stoppy. Anyway, quick history of St. Dot's. St. Dot's was, St. Dorothy's School was started in 1950. And believe it or not, the upper floor, third floor of St. Bernadette School, Mother Kathleen, who was still the principal when we wound up going to school there, started it. And what they turned out was just some outstanding, character, boring people. Just boring people. I'll mention 1953, you won't recognize any of these names. Bill Feely, Ed McCarron, Don Taylor, John Toner. 1954 was a great year. My brother Bob, Mike Shaney's older brother Frank, Paul Ryan's older brother Maury Ryan, Neil McDonald, John Garvey. Just phenomenal, outstanding people. Just, you wouldn't want better people than that. 1955, Keevy Rieger and Tom Toner. Things began to change a little bit in 1956. We started getting some interesting people in there. These people before, you'd love them as kids, but they're just not that exciting to talk about. 56, it started changing a little bit. Got a guy named John Manning. Now, John Manning was as straight and narrow as you can ever imagine. Great swimmer, went to St. Joe Prep, wound up flying airplanes in the Navy. But you could take John Manning out of Drexel Hill, but you can't take the Drexel Hill out of John Manning. back in, I'm not too sure when it was, back in the 70s, he decided to surprise his family, and he flew a big Navy jet right up Signal Road. I was about three miles away in Springfield. I thought it was an earthquake. Anybody who lived through it knows and remembers where they were. It's like when Kennedy got shot. You knew where you were when John Manning flew that plane up Signal Road. I talked to his brother Mike, and he said the neighbors were just so upset. There was liquor bottles falling off the shelves and everything like that. John Manning. The other guy you had in this 1956 class was, from my research, the very first nickname. Fella's name was John Bidding. He had this thin little head, and he had the nickname Pinhead. First nickname that I can remember. And naturally, in St. Dot's fashion, it went from Pinhead to Pinner. It was Yo Pinner. Other guys in that class, Joe Mayer, Jack McIlvain, Mike Stapleton, and Bob DiStefano. Then came the class that we were waiting for. Class of 1957, this was like the Beatles coming to America. Everything changed. But then again, when you think about it, things were changing in college, or in the country. In 1954, when Frank Chaney, Maury Ryan, and Bob Collins were dropped off at Steel Field for a Saturday morning football game, if they turned on the radio, they would have heard Perry Como sing "How Much Is That Doggy in the Window?" or Doris Day singing "Que Sera, Sera." The class of 1957, in the fall of '56, when they played football, if they got dropped off at Steel Field and they turned on the radio, they heard Little Richard singing "Long Tall Sally" and Elvis singing Hound Dog and "Don't Be Cruel." So things changed, but nothing changed like this class. And this class is the best class ever out of St. Dorothy's, ever. Now, all you guys sitting out there are taking issue and saying, "Wait, my class was the best." Let me prove it to you. This class had our honoree tonight, Jim Tripp Stewart. the Connie Mack of CYO football. You'd say any class that had Stu in it, yeah, it's got to be the best class, no question about it. They also had Jack Shark McGuinn. Jack Shark McGuinn was the very first player from St. Dorothy's that came back to coach. That year was my 8th grade, 1962, in the fall of 1962. The very first one. Ed Smith had started the program way back in 1950. He had a son, Eddie Smith, that was a class ahead of us. Once Eddie Smith came through 8th grade, Mr. Smith wanted to really kind of phase himself out, but he would only do it, just like Stu did, if you could leave it in somebody's hands, in good hands. So Jack Shark McGuinn had as big an effect as anybody ever in the CYO program at St. Dorothy's. I mean, he was outstanding, just a brilliant coach, went on to have an incredible career at Malvern, and to be brutally honest, and I think Stu would be the first to tell you, if there was no Shark, there would be no Stu. Shark was the coach, assistant coach in 1962. 1963, I think he was kind of the head coach. Mr. Smith was around, but Shark really ran the team. He brought Stu in to be the 5th and 6th grade coach, and that was the beginning of the 5th and 6th grade program. And then Shark, after the 63 team left to go to O'Hara, I was on that team, and then he handed the reins off to Stu. And if Stu had to start coaching with somebody, it was good you had Todd O'Neill on your first team. But anyway, Stu and Shark. If you just say Stu and Shark, you'd have to say, oh my God, he's right. Birdman's right. That's the greatest class out of St. Dorothy's. That's not all they had. They had Mike Manning. Mike Manning was an all-Catholic basketball player, played for a Catholic League championship at Bonner, went on to have a great coaching career, had a great playing career at Westchester, but great coaching career at Harrington and Lower Merion. They also had, and Mike Manning's first coaching job was the 7th and 8th grade basketball team at St. Dorothy's. So that's 3 guys that we've got out of this class that came back and coached at St. Dorothy's. They also had Tommy Finch Lynch. Finch, stand up. Stand up. He's here. Finch was the 4th guy. He came and coached for a number of years on St. Dorothy's football team. They had other people in that class, the legendary Johnny Nebel, Paul Mena, Tom Reedy, Paul Geis, and the original monk, Johnny Monk Simon. There were 3 monks. There was Big Monk, Little Monk, and Middle-sized Monk. Dave Stahl. But the thing that puts this class over the top, this class had something no other class ever at St. Dot's had. They had the Mad Ass Club. The Mad Ass Club consisted of Fox, Finch, Hick, Coon, Marls, and Nut. How about those for nicknames? Let me go back over those. Fox, Finch, Hick, Coon, Marls, and Nut. Fox was a great guy, God bless his soul, Maurice Cox. Finch we have met already. Hick was Joe Hendricks. Hick on demand could do any farm animal imitation. I sat in the front seat as we're giving Hick a ride home, and he'd go from donkey to cow to rooster without being asked. I mean, he just ripped them off one after another. Coon is here with us tonight. Mike Rooney, please stand up. Coon was also a coach at St. Dorothy's, so that's 5 out of this group. Coon, I will let you know, is not a St. Dot's guy. Well, he became a St. Dot's guy. He's a St. Bernadette's guy, and he went to Malvern before it was cool to go to Malvern. Now it's cool to go to Malvern. He went to Malvern before it was cool. You know, that whole cookies and milk thing. But he was the 5th guy to come out of that class. Marls was Tommy Ryan, older brother of Paul Ryan. Great Marls story. The manager at Aronimink Swim Club at this time was a guy by the name of Jim Komernicki. Jim Komernicki and the Mad Ass Club butted heads all the time. An event would be when these guys would start their dives off the diving board. John Collins had a running back flip where he would run full speed, turn at the end of the board, and do a back flip. There would be 3 guys on the board, one jumping off, another one running at him, and a 3rd guy that maybe just had his foot on the diving board. Jim Komernicki did not go for any of the Mad Ass Club annex and really cut down on them. So Marls is going with Mike Manning weeks after he graduates from Bonner into the Marines. Marls leaves the house. He's getting inducted later that afternoon. He leaves the house on a mission, straight to the pool to find Jim Komernicki. As luck would have it, Jim Komernicki is there. It's like 9 in the morning, and now the pool doesn't open till 10, but we all know that there's stuff going on at the pool. Swim team, swim lessons, that type of thing. Jim Komernicki is dressed in a head-to-toe suit, shoes, long sleeve, tie, the whole bit. Marls grabs him. Jim Komernicki was a football coach at PMC, now Widener, and wrestles him and throws him in the pool with full suit on. The last member of the Mad Ass Club is John Collins, known as the Nut. John, please stand up. John's presence is still exists. If you go to the pool, now you won't go to the pool till next year, there's a flagpole right in the pool. There's no gold ball on the top. John, at the age of 15, shimmied up that flagpole to get the gold ball. For all you educators out there, John Collins would be an absolute nightmare in the class. Nightmare. He would be the one, he would sneak up to the chalkboard, gather all of the erasers, throw them out the window. Go back to his seat, raise his hand, ask to be excused, go out and get the erasers, bring them back up, and throw them back out again. When I went to O'Hara, I started at O'Hara in 1963, fall of 1963. John Collins, this class, graduated from Bonner in 1957. Every teacher that I had asked me, are you related to John Collins? Yes. I had a chemistry teacher, Mr. Chase, who kept saying, oh, me and John were tight, me and John were tight. Go home and ask John about that. So finally I did one day and said, what's this guy, Mr. Chase? And he said, oh my God, all-time loser if he couldn't get a date, he would take if he couldn't get the car for a date, he'd take the date out on the trolley. One time, John and the Mad Ass Club were going by, and this is my chemistry teacher, and they mooned them. Mooned them from the car, from the convertible. Moving on. The one thing John Collins is known for more than any other is he could ride a bicycle backwards. What he used to do, he would sit on the handlebars, look over his shoulder, and pedal backwards. Pedal all the way home from St. Dot's practice. And everybody was trying to imitate him. Going on, class of 1958, Paul Ragamuffin Ryan. Paul, stand up. Jim Pup Mullen. Eugene Barry, better known as Cuda. Jackie Artie Lynch, John Holston, Dennis Dunphy. Dennis Dunphy is here. And John Twitmayer. Class of 59, Mike Shaney, Tony Moondog McGarry, John Smythe. John Smythe is here. Walter Bud Gibson, Don Rabbit Guinan, Charles Pudgy Ringwald, and George Goomba Coco. Is Goomba here? He had something better to do. 1960, Skippy Bracken, Drew Lindsay, Tom Stewart, Tom Rabbit Guinan, John Walsh. 1961, Bobby France, Albie Liberi, Ray Baby Huey Suplee, Ricky Monk Simon, John Goiter Gaughan, and Kirk Layton. 1962, Brian Kutch Smythe. Brian Kutch Smythe, John McGarry, Fran Dunphy, Mike Beebe, Fritz Zoig, Pete Zune, Franny Goomba Coco. My year, Kenny Nails Nolan, Paul Monk Simon, Jackie Hendricks, Jerry Bird Collins, Timmy Duck McGee, Bobby Alfred E. Newman Lehman, and Chucky Jock O'Malley. The last class, Michael Daly and Ray Bulb Martin, Denny Pickle McDonald. I want to point out something. Michael Daly played basketball at Villanova. Ray Bulb Martin played basketball at St. Joe's. When they were sophomores at Villanova and St. Joe's, Franny Dunphy was a senior at LaSalle. We had 3 guys in the Big Five at one time. I don't think any parish has done that. That's all I got.
Next speaker is Fran Dunphy, 1962 graduate from St. Dot's, 66 from Malvern Prep, 1970 from LaSalle University. Fran played on one of the best teams in the history of the Big Five. He actually at one time had a tryout with the Philadelphia 76ers. However, they hired Big Shot instead. Fran is a veteran of the United States Army and began his coaching career in 1971 at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. He's become one of the most successful coaches in Big Five history after 17 years at the University of Pennsylvania and now in his 10th season at Temple University. As great of a coach as Fran Dunphy is, he is a better person by far. Please welcome Fran Dunphy.
Thank you, Paul. The Birdman stole the show. You're the best, Birdman. It is the best. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about Stu, and I won't take very long. But the man is a tremendous human being. I'm humbled by Kraut asking me to talk a little bit about Stu, and I have my own thoughts about him and what he's meant to me. But if we could go around the room and get to every table, and somebody would be touched by something that Stu did and how he treated you and how he acted toward you. The man is as human a man as I've ever met in my life. All he's ever wanted to do was do good and do good for others. It's never been about him. It's always been about somebody else. He's an unbelievable father, an unbelievable husband, an unbelievable grandfather. He's been a mentor to so many, a great teacher, a great leader, and somebody who, again, has touched all of us. As every speaker got up here, I thought Kraut did a great job. Coach Gallagher, you're to be admired, to be honest with you. I love coaching. I love to watch how people handle themselves and how they talk about others. When I was a grade schooler, we had Ed Smith, and I appreciate Father Murphy talking about Ed Smith a little bit, and then the progression of Ed Smith and Shark and Stu, and now you, Coach Gallagher. I appreciate the things that you had to say about Stu. I appreciate Father Rob's talk as well. I love to be inspired, and I got to tell you, I was inspired by listening to his thoughts and every word out of his mouth and how it was directed at Stu and this neighborhood and this parish that we have at St. Dorothy's. We had a mother, my brother and I were lucky enough to have a mother who went to Mass daily for all of us to help us get through our lives, and how much St. Dorothy's meant to all of us as we grew up. How much a guy like Ed Smith meant to all of us as we grew up. Where he coached 5th and 6th grade and 7th and 8th grade football and basketball. I remember some baseball games he had us to. I remember some pen relays. He started the CYO program at the high school level as well, all while raising 4 children and being a motorcycle cop in Upper Darby and handing the reins over to Stu and to Shark and those guys that just did unbelievable things for the parish. But I'm so proud to be a member of St. Dorothy's. And it's one of those things like if you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. If you're from St. Dorothy's, you're always from St. Dorothy's, and what it meant to you and how those people took care of you. Bird was talking a little bit about the older group. All these guys here are as close of friends as I've ever had in my life, and all of us had older brothers who took care of us. And then there was another step up with Shark and Stu and Adrian. And you'd be standing on the corner and they'd be calling you over and say, get in the car. And you'd go to the Palestra, or you'd go to the Phillies game, or you'd go to the Eagles game, or you'd go to the 76ers or the Philadelphia Warriors or what it was back in the day. But everybody took care of one another in that neighborhood in that era. They put their arms around you. You had no chance to go astray because no one would let you go astray. So a couple of things to Stu. And one is when we played for Ed Smith, by the time we got old enough and smart enough to say, hey, Mr. Smith, I can't thank you enough for all that you did for us. I can't thank you enough. He was gone. So everybody here that was touched by Stu, as you went, either you're coached by him or he drove you to Malvern or whatever it happened to be, and how he touched your life, make sure you let him know how he was with you and how much he meant to you. On a personal note, I got out of the United States Army in 1972. I was happy to be out of the Army. I was happy to do what I was doing. I started to bartend. Somebody came into to the bar and said there's a $500 a year membership at Lanark Country Club. You can play golf every day. So I'm bartending. I'm playing golf every single day and having the time of my life. And one day I get a knock on my door. It's Shark and Stu. And they say, listen, Malvern Prep needs a new basketball coach. I said, that's fabulous. I hope they get one. And they say, no, we want you. I said, no, I don't have any interest. I really don't. And they said, yeah, you should. You need some direction. I said, I don't want any direction. I like exactly who I am right now. And then Stu came back again, and he said, listen, you got to do this. It's for your own good. This is going to be something that's going to be good for you. And the rest of my life, I'm thankful to Shark and to Stu for what they meant to me. And then when I got to Malvern and was a coach and was a teacher and was a counselor, and Stu encouraged me to get a master's degree in counseling so I would act like I knew what I was doing when I was counseling some of those young people. But that's what he did for so many of us. And I'm so grateful for that. And the last thing I would leave you with is a couple weeks ago I had the occasion to bring my team down to the Naval Academy to play the University of North Carolina. And it was really a trip of a lifetime for me. I can't even imagine what it was like for our student athletes. And we go around and we get on a ship and we get on a big truck and we get on a helicopter and do all these things about what the Naval Academy is all about. And we started to talk to some of these officers, and there was a Marine officer who had been in the service for over 20 years. And somebody asked him what these years were like and to be in the service for that long. And he said, you know what, I'm going to give you a quote. And the quote was, the days are long, but the years are short. And that's what it's like in this room tonight. The days, we spent many, many days together. These are some of my best friends out here, and will always be, which is so awesome for me. And then we look back and how many of these years, these 50 years, they went by like a heartbeat. It's an amazing thing that when you get this age now, you look back and you say, God almighty, how about the life that we all led? We led an unbelievable life. I stand here before all of you saying, there's nobody luckier in the world than me. I grew up in a wonderful neighborhood with a great family, with great friends, and I've had the time of my life. It's gone by like in a heartbeat, but no one is more proud of St. Dorothy's, Drexel Hill, Pilgrim Gardens, and Jim Stewart. No one is more proud. And you should all feel the same way. And I love to be inspired, and I was inspired by, again, Coach Gallagher, Father Rob. Father Rob, I would love to get that. I see this thing being filmed. I need to watch that again. I need to see that. I need to listen to it because there were so many great points in there. And again, always bringing it back to Jim Stewart and the kind of man, the kind of human being that he is. And again, never was it about Stu. It was always about everybody else. Thank you so much. Happy to be here. Great to be here. An honor to be here for Jim Stewart.
Stu, everything on my index cards to introduce you has already been said. There's nothing else to say. Come on up here.
Thank you. And those who know me, this is past my bed hour, so I will try to do this as quickly as I can and try to talk as slowly as I can because I'm known for talking fast. But I don't know whether Father Murphy's still here or went home to get ready for Mass. But he obviously didn't talk to Shark about what I was like. For those who don't know who Shark was, he preceded me as a coach of St. Dot's, and I don't know that Shark would have had a whole lot of good things to say about me. But we'll see. I'd like to thank Father Murphy. I think this night is a great night for St. Dot's reunion for the football players, the wives, the girlfriends, the kids that went to school at St. Dot's around in the past 50 years. So I look at it as like a reunion or a living wake, so to speak, that I get a chance to attend my own wake, and there'd be nothing I'd rather do than go to a wake at St. Dot's. I'd like to thank the committee of Kraut, Paul McShane, John Lilly, Dennis Sheehan, Dennis McClatchy, Andy Arabello, Rob Libertor. I think they were the names on the sheet. Really appreciate the efforts you put forward here. I'd have to thank all the players that are here and their parents and their friends. You get into this for one reason. You want to be around kids and for the right reasons. And to me, there's no greater joy than to be around a kid trying to get him to become a better person or a better player and maybe better educated in life. I'd like at this time to do something we did the last time is because I tried to figure out, well, maybe I'll name all the assistant coaches. And then I said, boy, what a fool you are. You know for sure that you're going to leave someone off. So if all the ones who have been an assistant at one time or another could just stand, please, be acknowledged. Please stand up if you are. You're in the audience. I know you're there. Stand up. To thank them because any coach isn't any good unless he has good quality assistants, and we certainly have had that at St. Dot's. And you saw with Brian's staff here tonight that he's got a quality group that he has going forward. Ed Smith, a name mentioned a lot. Smitty was the sergeant of Upper Darby Police, motorcycle cop. He's the one that more or less got us together and got us involved in coaching, and to him we owe an awful lot. Shark got me involved in coaching. His name was John McGuinn. Died about 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not exactly sure of the time. And forever and ever, Shark got me the job at St. Dot's. He got me to come to Malvern. And so he played a really key role in 2/3 of my life in terms of the work that I did in my life. So I want to thank Shark an awful lot for that. I want to thank the Birdman tonight, Dump, and Heggs, Father Hagen, for saying a few words about me, and Brian Gallagher. I'm sure that my son Matthew Stewart has his signature all over whatever videos are shown here tonight, so thank you, Matthew, for doing that. We have here, sitting at this table, the team of 56 that I was a member of the class of 56, our team of 56 could stand up and be acknowledged. That's Nutt, Paul Ryan, all right, Tommy Lynch, all right. And one little story about that team, I had a great helmet my father bought me, but I didn't wear it, Nutt wore it, and I wore somebody else's helmet. So everyone said, oh, look at Stu make that tackle, look at Stu make that tackle. No, Nutt was making the tackles back then. I've been blessed with a great family. I have my children here tonight, and some nieces and nephews that are here, my siblings, my brothers and sisters, and they're far better at being a family person than maybe that I should be, but I hope to correct that somewhere in the future. I've been blessed by God to have been married to Mary, and even more recently being married to Debbie for the past 6.5 years. I found happiness I never knew I could find again in life once you lose someone that you love, to find someone else that you love and who supports what you're doing. So thank you, Debbie, for being part of it. Timing is a big thing, and I think I've been at the right place at the right time. I've been blessed, I've been lucky, I've had a supportive parish, parents and the players. But this is a great area, and a lot of these things come up in other talks tonight. You have St. Dorothy's, you have the pool, you have the aeronomic school for basketball or practice, Steel Field, you have the Lanark Hills Little League that I played in, or at Hilltop today, Len's Den. We had the Shoe, Lou the Shoe, who told me he was too busy to come tonight. But we have the Roof and Axe Funeral Home. And now I'm going to throw out 3 names that a lot of you will have no idea what I'm talking about. But we had 3 delicatessens at one time. We had Ned's, Linmar, and Madre's that serviced a lot of our needs. And in those collective names of the places I just mentioned really are, we just all just gravitated to all those sites at the appropriate time of the year, and it helped to solidify a lot of what you heard from my friends that talked on my behalf this evening. Football. I think the big key to the success of St. Dot's football program is we have a committed parish. They want to see their kids participate. We've had a committed group of coaches and also a committed group of parents who have been behind us 100% from the very beginning. And I think that continuity over the years really carried in the success we've had at St. Dot's. And every team I've ever coached, we'd start out by saying we want to have fun. If we can't make this a fun experience for your son, then we're not doing anything correctly. It has to be fun first. Then I told them they had to hit. They had to hit people, and they had to like to get hit, because football is a contact sport, and you have to learn to take a hit and give a hit. We try to teach them the fundamentals. I think we're proud to say that I think most of the times the fundamentals were taught to these kids, and they were able to go on to high school or other levels of football to become players. You saw the plays, and on Thanksgiving morning I saw that shirt at the field, and I couldn't believe it that they had most of the plays that we called, and that's all we ran were 7 or 8 plays. And to have Spider here tonight, Michael Spider Whitlock here, who is, of course, the recipient of the name the Spider Special, and that had to be somewhere in the late 60s, so that play's been around a few years, but I noticed that Brian tried to run it on Thanksgiving Day, not after a touchdown, but I think during the game, I think Brian ran the Spider Special. Was never about wins or losses, and someone said this earlier, it's nice to win, it's nice to learn how to lose and how to accept it and move on from it, but we never kept any stats. I couldn't tell you who had how many touchdowns, how many yards. I never counted the wins or losses, never counted the championships, and we had many. What was more important is that young man had fun, and at the end of the day, he learned how to play football and maybe had the opportunity to go on and play again. Or, as evidenced by tonight, the friendships that have endured for so many years because you played football or basketball at St. Dot's, and you continue today to have these kind of friendships. It's just an amazing thing. Now, of course, we did want to beat Bernie's, And St. Dot's Day is coming. Someone said Brian left a good team. He was, but he's also, from looking at the talent he has in 7th grade and what's on the middle school, the 5th and 6th grade football team, I think St. Dot's is in pretty good shape as far as football going forward. It's a different world out there. It's not up the way it was when we were in CYO when we started. It's changed. It's a different game. And hopefully St. Dot's, we're proud that we're still a single parish and we're just servicing our kids. We always stress teamwork, academics, but most importantly, when I would get the kids together, we always talked about God, family, and self. It's something that I talked about a lot about at Malvern, that the most important thing in this world is God, the next most important thing is family, and the next is yourself. And you have to take care of yourself. You can't really enjoy family or be a part of God in His life. So try to remember that, everyone, that if you put God, family, and yourself up there ahead, then you're going to do well in this world. My Malvern family who's here tonight, I'd like to thank them for being here. There must be a dozen people from Malvern. I really appreciate that, but they know I was famous for a triangle. And we'd have up here in the flat part, students on the side, the parents, and the teachers supporting the kids. But I'd like to think the same thing has happened at St. Dot's. The parents and the coaches have been supporting those players at the top for all these years, and I'm sure Brian and his guys will continue to do that. We've had 2 pros. I don't think either one is here tonight. One was at Thanksgiving. Oh, Don Clune is here. Don, if you could stand up, Don. Don played for the Seattle Seahawks and the New York Giants, and a graduate of Penn and O'Hara. One of the undefeated teams, I think the 50th anniversary of the 1965 team in terms of being undefeated, so congratulations. We also had more recently Tommy Savage, who I believe was with the Dallas Texans, and I'm not exactly sure about that, as a reserve quarterback, who also was a pro. And I could tell 1,500 stories, because there were probably 1,500 kids, but obviously on a night like tonight, you can't tell 1,500 stories. But I'd have to say that the kids that I had last year, the ones that are here tonight, even though our record was horrible, I think I drew a lot of joy out of being with those kids day in and day out, trying for them to get better. And you know, those kids came to practice every day in a lot worse weather than we had this fall. It's a great fall for football weather. And every day they came to practice, and every day they wanted to be there and learn how to play and become better. And I think this year, Brian saw that happen. In closing, and I wish I could have said hello to everyone tonight, and I guess maybe at some point I might, but we've asked the money that's donated tonight to go to Bobby Hornsleth Fund at St. Dorothy's. And Bobby had a lot of nicknames, and I think I said these at his funeral, but I said, you know, he was known as the Toad. He was also known as Omnipresent, because anywhere you went, Bobby was there. How he got there, I have no idea, because he didn't drive. We all had the experience. Oh, there's Bobby. Oh, there's Bobby. You know, but he was there. He also had the nickname the Banshee, because he'd have war cries once in a while when he'd be shouting and screaming. But people sometimes would say, well, Bobby, you know, how much football does he know? He knows more than you could ever imagine. In fact, he used to tell me, Stu, remember in '68 when you ran off tackle to the right side and so-and-so went 40 yards and he zipped to the left and zipped to the right? He says, no, Bob, I don't, but I know he did. Bobby had a memory for that kind of thing. So if you have a spot in your heart for Bobby or for St. Dot's and trying to help people get ahead, then it'd be a good idea. If you've made a donation tonight, fine. If you're going to make one in the future, that would be great too, because it's a great fund I think they're going to try to establish to help benefit graduates of St. Dorothy's for furthering their education. And Paul Hornsleth is here tonight, a former Malvern teacher and swim coach. Paul, he's Bobby's brother. And in closing, I told you I wouldn't be real long. I just feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world, but you never know what kind of an impact you're going to have on kids and what they're going to say. There's one young man that can't be here tonight, but he wrote me this thing. Congratulations, Stu. I'm heartsick that I will miss your celebration. It figures that the only night I'm offered this club is the date of your dinner. Enjoy the night and the well-deserved accolades you will receive. I will be there in spirit and prayers for you. I will always remember riding to the Parade of Champions in the middle of your Mustang. Happy Thanksgiving. Best wishes, Bob Pig McCafferty, better known as Bob Baru, if you listen to any... I said to you, God, family, and self. If you can all remember God, family, and self, and put that in front of your mirrors, you'll have the great rest of your life. God bless you, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Listen, before we wrap up, I would like to bring my committee up here and thank them and present Stu with a token of our appreciation. Jim already mentioned them: Dennis McClatchy, Rob Libator, Dennis Sheehan, Andy Aravella, John Lilly, and you nailed it, my AV specialist, your son Matthew, who without all this stuff wouldn't have happened. And Matt, excellent, and thank you very much for all you've done. Also, special thanks to J.C. Costa, who recorded this, and hopefully we can have this available on a video at some point. Guys, come on up here. Stu, would you just come up, and we want to give you one last little present. Who's got This is inscribed as to Stu in appreciation of 50 years of dedication to St. Dot's football. I'm sure he'll find a great spot for it. And Jim, again, thank you for everything you've done for all of us here tonight. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it. And please, everybody be careful going home tonight. For safety reasons, there's some security checkpoints out there all through Delaware County, so please take no chances, drive safe. Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it.